There are several things that are driving sort of digital, driving IT departmental changes really at the moment in the digital marketplace. Digital transformation, you've got cyber-based risk, you've got the emerging workforce as well, which is sort of known as Generation Z, and sort of Snapchat generation. So as they're hitting the workforce, they present a whole number of different challenges. The first one, digital transformation itself. This has a number of different areas that are sort of changing the way that data is created in particular. First being is the Internet of Things, which is everything is IP enabled, everything's on a network, they're measuring things, they're communicating. Some of these things are simple sensors that are creating data, others are actors that are referred to as actors, where you can make them do things. So smart homes is a good example of that. Sensors, good examples are people gathering data off of beer flowing through lines in pubs. How fast is the beer? Which lines are selling faster? Are the lines being cleaned properly? There's a lot more devices creating a lot more data. Terabytes and terabytes of this stuff being created, sometimes by the minute. And that means on aggregate, you end up with petabytes of this stuff. Where do you stick it all? Which stuff do you keep? Which stuff do you let go? And how do you analyse it? These large monolithic applications that we've been building for the last 30 years, they don't really scale very quickly. Every time you want to make a change to one of these, we have to take the whole thing down, or and update it and patch it and write new code. It's a laborious task. It takes a lot of people developing for that very discrete outcome, and at the same time, you're not able to then make that grow very quickly. So as if load is spiky, if you're not sure how much data is coming in, or you're not sure who's going to request what reporting out of your data at the application level, or how much data you're processing, then you just have to build the biggest thing you can think of and hope that you don't run out of space or resource. And that's changing with the advent of sort of hyperscale clouds and cloud computing, where people don't have to own or invest in the underlying hardware. They can now write applications that are smaller and work together almost like a grid fashion. And so the best analogy I have for this that isn't mine, somebody, I forget who I heard this from, but I won't take credit for it, is the kind of the container ship analogy, where if you think about sort of applications of yesteryear as being these large ships with lots of little containers on, all doing different things in different containers, those are your kind of components of your big application. All doing their own thing. Ship is in the water, it's moving in one particular direction at a particular speed. If you want to start taking, say, the bottom container off of that boat and change it out for another one, or update it, or what have you, the whole boat has to stop, you have to bring it to dock, you have to take a lot of other containers off first, put that one in, make sure that it's all stable, boat goes on its way. It's an outage. Everybody else has to wait for their containers, so there's going to be a large thing that has to stop moving. Whereas if you now consider that if each one of those containers was instead a small piece of cargo or application on a speedboat, a smaller ship, all in the water going at the same speed, then you're suddenly in a different world. You can take one particular boat out of the water and change that and adapt it, especially if you've got more than one. If you want to add more of one type, then you don't need to buy a bigger boat. You just put more little boats in the water, and so your flotilla gets bigger. What's more, so we now sort of transfer that into the sort of today's world in a hyperscale environment. If your transactional-based website is under load because a particular piece of marketing has gone well, your application that's been through digital transformation should be able to respond to that dynamically, focusing on the user experience and scale out the number of servers, the number of database instances, or whatever it is that's supporting that service that you're providing to your client, and they should know nothing different. The fact that you're having a busy day shouldn't mean that your customer has to wait any longer, and you should be able to pay for that by the second or the minute. And then when the load dissipates, you can scale it back down again. So that's quite a key concept really in digital transformation, is beginning to sort of make the applications work for you, rather than building a whole team of people around the application and working for the application and keeping the lights on, and sort of managing this monster that you've built over the years. There is a looming challenge, let's call it, coming from the newer generations. And I mentioned this earlier, the kind of Generation Z. This is a workforce that is already here, and people seem to think that maybe this is a problem that's coming. But these people are already entering the workforce. The reason they're doing that is that less and less of them are going to onto higher education. So I've got two teenagers, and as good examples of how they are going to want to work differently, I look at how they currently operate and work with their friends to create things and how they do their homework and what have you. And it's not common for my daughter to be at home working on a piece of homework on a laptop. That's exactly as you'd expect. However, next to her, propped up, is an iPad, and that's on a FaceTime call with one of her friends, and they'll be doing a piece of homework, maybe the same thing or different, and they're just socially connected. The point is that call will be open for an hour and a half, chewing through my internet bandwidth, which is great. But the thing is that she's collaborating, and they'll be talking about what they're doing. And when she enters the workforce, and she's 16 now, so this is going to be literally a couple of years' time when she's out there looking for a job. It's going to be very alien for her if someone sits her at a desk and says, here's a telephone, you pick it up and you can have voice calls. In fact, I picked up her iPhone the other day. She asked me to do something on it, and I looked at the front screen, and what staggered me was that the phone icon for making telephone calls wasn't there. She'd moved it. She has a little iPhone, and she buried it in one of the little folders. She does not use her iPhone for making phone calls. It's not a telephone to this age group. This is a smart device. It is a video calling device. It is a device for sending text messages and text-based conversations, but multiple threads at the same time, and sharing photographs on Instagram and various other bits and pieces. She's digitally connected, and she's never known anything different. So the workforce has to respond to this particular generation. They may want to work from Starbucks. It doesn't really matter to them where they are, because their ability to be creative and churn out work and be productive is not linked to a working day or a particular device. It's actually, they've been born fairly free and independent, and into a digital age where they expect to have the tools at their fingertips. So the best way of enabling them is to work flexibly and to understand that these devices that they carry around with them, whether they're owned by you or them, they are digital extensions of who they are, and they see them as sort of part of their world, and you can't lock it down too tight. You have to kind of embrace this, and there's a fine balance between what I was talking about earlier on and cyber technology and what you do about allowing them to be creative, with whatever device they want. If you don't give this younger generation the right tools to do their job in the way that they want to work, well, quite frankly, you're not going to attract the best talent. Or logic dictates anyway. So, allowing them to use different devices, work from home, work from the road, and be more free is going to be a demand of the best people. So, if you want the right people, the best people in your business, again, you're going to struggle to grow, and struggle to be innovative. So there's those three core risks really right there.